Good evening, folks.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Hello?
Looks like we'll give the mayor a few more minutes here. Mayor's on his way, folks. He had the same trouble with the link that Connie did.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm sorry to be so late in joining you. Apparently, I had some technical difficulties. Connie, I think you may have shared similar difficulties.
I did.
Okay. Well, you'll hear in a few minutes that this should be our last meeting for the time being by Zoom. So why don't we go? Yes, thank
Yay.
you, Greg. I agree. Why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order? If I could ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence, and in particular, a moment of silence for to think about our ability to have a meeting based in freedom and contrast that with what folks are going through in the Ukraine and that terrible invasion. And if we could have a moment of silence, and then Karen, if I could ask you to say the pledge for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Okay. So everyone should have a copy of the minutes of our last regularly scheduled meeting. First off, I guess, Madam Clerk, do you have an electronic roll call tonight? Okay. Then each of us have a copy of the minutes of our last regularly scheduled meeting. If there is a motion for their approval.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
And second. Thank you, Will. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved. Each council member in their packet should have also received a copy of our latest check register. If you could indicate if you received that register. Thank you. Devin, I'm going to get you to help me from time to time. I did not get my agenda right in front of me. I think the next item on the agenda would be public comments.
That's correct. And I believe we do have a couple events. Tracy?
Yeah, well, and
Yeah.
I see Tom Combs on here with us. So.
Tom is here for the 4th of July, and we will also be discussing the Finley 5K. So Tom, since you're here.
Super. Thank you.
Excellent. I appreciate the opportunity again to come before you, Mayor Prather and fellow council members. Again, my name is Tom Combs. I'm a member of the Kiwanis Club of Scott County, and I'm also their coordinator. I'm the July 4th Parade coordinator that we've conducted for the last several years. So I have before you the application, the events application to hold the July 4th parade on Monday, July 4th. I think including that packet is probably the route which we will travel down, which is the same as we have in the past. We'll line up on College Street at 9:20. We will try to make that a one-way street going eastward. And then we'll turn down Military Street as we have before. The difference here is I've made on Main Street from Military to Memorial Drive, requesting it be closed at 10:30 and to go from 10:30 to 12:30. And then from Memorial Drive to US 25, it will be closed from 10 o'clock to 12:30. And this is based on some of the feedback I received last year. And there were some, I guess, potential vehicle incidents that might have had some safety issues with them. But that's our request this year. And this year, I'm kind of excited. We had decided to have a theme this year called Celebrating Teachers. And I have approached the superintendent of schools, and they're excited about it. And the idea here is to have teachers representing the various schools in the county to march in our parade. And it allows us some time to acknowledge and celebrate them for what they've been through over this pandemic and everything over the last couple of years. So I'm excited about that. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Sounds like a good plan, and what a great idea to honor teachers. Any questions for Tom about their intended changes?
I have no questions, but I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And there's a second. If there are no questions for Tom, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Tom, I think you sweet talked them again. Good job.
Well, I appreciate y'all's attention, and I thank you for your approval. And look forward to this July 4th this year. So thank you very much. And I'll go ahead and sign off and leave you all to
We
your business.
appreciate your all's work on this civic event for the community, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Y'all take care. Thank you.
Mhm. Tracy, was there anyone else?
Dwayne Ellison is not here for the Finley 5K, but he did turn in all his paperwork, so it's in your packet. And he's just asking approval for the street closure for that event.
Dwayne was even willing to put off approval for another meeting if he needed to come. And we assured him that we thought that both he and his event were well known enough to the council to where we could probably navigate this approval without him.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Thank you, Todd.
Second.
Thank you, Willow. If there are no questions about the Finley 5K, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? That is approved. Handful of mayor's comments that I wanted to make you all aware of. I think it's appropriate that I begin my comments this week with comments and updates on garbage collection and how things are going with Republic, and that we keep that issue front and center until we're satisfied that we've completed this transition in a pretty good order. It appears that from what I can see and what I get reported to me, that most of the residential routes are beginning to work out and settle in, and folks getting used to them. We've been working through an issue still at the beginning of this week with some of the remainder trash that people have, and making sure that that gets picked up. And then I know that Greg Butler with Republic today talked with Lynn Foley to clarify with her what the policy was for bags outside of the Herbie. So that process continues to be a communication one. We think it's improving. Where we're having to spend a little bit of time monitoring it is still with some of the businesses. I think they've had some confusion, and we're acting as a liaison there. I believe it's beginning to improve, but we are still answering some calls for help, and would be glad to answer any questions you all might have, or we've got good lines of communication with Republic. So if we can help on behalf of any citizen that you're hearing from, we're glad to do so.
Mayor, I've been hearing from Mark Medley and others that they're having trouble getting their recycling cans. So he's requested 3 times, and they keep saying they'll bring one out. Is there a backlog of those?
Willow, I'm kind of glad you brought that up. I called and ordered my Herbie and expected it to be delivered last week, and it was not.
Yeah.
I made a mental note to call again and see why it hadn't been. So I'll have to get that answer for me and others.
Okay, thank you.
I would say we called early on, and they said they would bring one, and it was supposed to be Friday. And they came and delivered everybody's Herbie's on our street except us. And so Gary called, and they said, yes, you were supposed to get one, but we'll make sure that you get it next Friday. So that should be this coming Friday. They were very nice. There was no wait line or anything like that. So I expect that it will be here then. So
yeah, it was interesting since my neighbor and I ordered ours at the same time, and theirs has arrived, and I haven't seen either here of mine, but we'll all get an answer on that.
Mayor, one thing that Robert Bruin and I and Greg discussed, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, they have a guy that's delivering them, brings them in a 40-yard dumpster, then he takes them out. I'm not sure how busy this one individual is, but that may be the problem. I've also heard that they ran out and they were trying to have others on order. So I'm not sure which one it is, but the The one gentleman that is delivering them for Republic, that was what I got from Robert Bruin this morning. So
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, just his availability and then the shortage. So I think in due time, everyone will receive them.
Yeah, I have heard Republic officials say they have been surprised at the percentage of our citizens that have requested recycling. Our folks were ready for it, and they are really requesting the service. So that should make us all feel pretty good about that.
Mayor, one more question.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
A few citizens have called about, we all need to call individually if we have brush and the grasses need to be bagged, but they need to call and individually order that to be picked up by our own people. Is that correct?
What Robert has done for the last several years, Willow, and we just talked about this in the last few days, we have just had our grabber trucks almost out on a circuit every day, and we get that much volume to where folks haven't had to call. But that seems a little hit or miss to me. I would think a citizen would be well served by calling Public Works and drawing their attention to it.
Okay. Thank you.
But it might just disappear on its own because we do go out and look for it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other comments about waste collection right now?
Well, I do a little bit, Mayor. I just want to see if you want to bring attention to the fact of, excuse me, evictions and setting people out and stuff and what's going on there, that maybe let people know that they have to call Republic ahead of time, like 48 hours prior to, that you're going to be evicting someone or setting them out, that they'll come and pick it up, but maybe figure out a way that if they don't within 24 hours of that, because that'll be 3 days of it being set out, of being able to remove it yourself as a property manager or whatever. But I just wanted to bring that up as well.
Okay.
Hey, Connie, I have a quick question for Connie. How much is the fee that goes along with that if you do a set out like that?
Well, the thing about it is, Karen, is that there's a process that you go through and you have to get your forcible. And once you do that, then the deputy will come and stand there, and then you hire someone to set out. But the thing about it is that if there was anything left, if they didn't come and get it, we used to have someone come and get it. Public Works would, and they would bill us whatever that would be. But now, we don't have that. So now we're going to have to make other arrangements. And I've spoke to the mayor about maybe coming up with a couple of ideas and maybe getting with code enforcement and Tim and talk about it.
Okay, so maybe my question is a little different than to the mayor. I had a couple of people ask, like, if they do their spring cleaning or they move, not as a set out the way Connie was describing, but if they move, and you set out everything that you don't want to take with you on the move, how do they bill them for that, or how does that work?
Karen, I'm going to take a stab at that.
Okay.
That is a outside the franchise service, which means they can get anybody they want to do it. But in terms of Republic, I believe they charge based on the size of the pickup. So it's sort of a sliding scale. If you got one extra thing, well, obviously if they got one extra thing, they'll pick that up. But if you got, a small garage, it's going to be one fee. And if you have a whole house clean out, it's going to be another.
Okay. So the customer can call them and tell them what their situation is, and then they can correspond with them and they'll tell them.
That's right. And it's also important to know, like I said, they can call any company they want for that.
Okay.
And I'd like to add to that, because I think there's been some confusion on this. We've had people do kind of large set outs like that, thinking they get one a month, and it's one large item per month. So if you sit a mattress out there, that's your one item. You can't sit a mattress, a couch, and 3 chairs out there. So yeah, Karen, to your point, they could call Republic or Rumpke or any provider for those set outs that are outside the scope of our franchise agreement.
Okay. All right.
But Debbie, you said once per month, and it's once per week.
Sorry, once per week. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. This will become, we continue to have expectations that this gets easier and easier, and we both Republic gets used to our community and our expectations, because we won't lower them. And folks also get used to the way this company operates. Hopefully this will work. Also wanted to discuss with the council for just a moment the contents, the email that I asked Devin to send to each of the council members today, so that you all could keep completely up to speed with what we're doing with our employees relative to COVID and masking. You got that email today. I think a lot of our employees were probably relieved to receive that. We made this change because the numbers are changing in our favor, very strongly in our favor. And if they continue to do that, we will continue to stay on this path. We've given the employees very specific guidance, and it's the most current guidance, and it's roughly the equivalent of what the school system implemented as of today. I talked with Dr. Miller at some length about this change, and because of the trend of the numbers, we were willing to take this step, and think that we're hopefully we're doing the safe thing by doing so. We've reserved the right to, if the numbers go in the wrong direction on us, to reverse that policy again. But I really hope that we're through with masking at this point. And wanted to make sure if y'all had any questions, I'd be glad to answer those, but wanted to make sure I drew your attention to that policy change. Also, one piece of news that I think is very relevant. We have had a detailed analysis done at this point on the house on South Broadway that we purchased, with the hope that we could restore it and use it for a continued city use later. Upon closer evaluation, it will cost more to repair the house than I can in good faith ask the council to undertake. It is just too big of a job. I do not want to put the council in the position of presiding over a money pit. And this has the potential to be very expensive. Where we anticipated somewhere between $300,000 to $500,000 to be able to put the house in usable condition, that amount may exceed $1 million.
Oh.
The house is not worth it. Its historical value is limited, and the only sound choice is to go to our plan B. We still wanted to own the property. We still think it's appropriate for the city to own the property. But our plan B is going to be to demolish the house, make better use of that square footage in that lot for the stormwater feature that we had in mind for a part of that lot. And it will become a greater stormwater feature and park. But I did want to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off for the council and let you know that this is not worth saving. And we will seek to tear the building down as quickly as we can.
Mayor,
Yes,
$1
ma'am.
million is a lot of money for that beautiful old house, but that's not quite so beautiful. But will you go in and salvage the things that can be salvaged? Like, didn't it have a stained glass window inside of it? And some of the doors and stuff are probably historical, fire mantles.
There's a handful of things left, Karen. You'd be really disappointed to walk through. They had already stripped most. There are a couple of those metal or those iron mantles that would be salvageable. There might be a couple of wood panels under a stair casing that might be salvageable. I think we would want anybody to take anything out of the house that was meaningful or or worth saving. Certainly those couple of windows would be
Yes.
worth saving.
For sure. They would be beautiful. A church that wanted to put stained glass window and couldn't afford it would be beautiful to put that in. Your
Yeah.
churches. Yeah. Okay.
So sorry to report that, but in a way, some people I've talked to have almost echoed my feelings with, in a way, it's almost a relief to know that that outcome is known and we will not sink additional funds into it. What that lets us do, it frees, I think, the council to have a better feeling about your approach to the renovation of City Hall, that we're not spending the money on two renovations. We're going to focus our efforts on renovating City Hall and not renovating a piece of property that we really hadn't anticipated owning. So it lets us keep our focus on what it should be and not be distracted. So I think that will be an okay outcome. Let's see, I'm referring to my notes on my phone here. You've, Devin, we talked about revenue forecasting. Have those documents now been sent to the council? Is that correct?
Yes, Tracy, emailed those out for me.
Oh, hey, Stacy, I didn't see you down there.
I'm here.
Okay, so so they now have everything they would need if they want to participate in the revenue forecasting.
Yes, and those are due March 28th. And if you want to be included.
Okay. Good. And then also to let you know, we had told you that we were going to implement a new process by which not-for-profits will make application to the city for funding. That's just been by letter. It's been some choose to come for the council. It's been just kind of all over the board. We've now have that process ready where they will make application online. And we have letters and information going out this week to the not-for-profits that we normally fund, and that information is also available on our website. So just trying to get a little more business-like in the way we take those applications on behalf of the council when we consider them for the budget. And that is all that I had on my mayor's comments. Any questions on that stuff?
Mayor, you've got one printed mayor's comment section, an executive order appointing Jane Lucas as an alternate to the Code Enforcement Board, and that is a joint appointment with Judge Covington.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion for approval?
I make
Motion.
the motion.
Thank you. Todd, I heard you first. Tammy, was that a second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? All right. I think next on our agenda is Mr. Azevedo.
Excuse me, Mayor, were you
Yes.
going to talk about the next meeting in the mayor's comments?
I certainly was. Thank you. You can tell that at about 5 minutes after 6, Chase, David, and I came sliding in front of our computers where we had been in a meeting outside. Yeah, I did. This will be our last meeting by Zoom. What we anticipate, given that we can't move into the house on Broadway, and that's now off the table, we've looked at where should we go for that 18 months or so, 12 to 18 months that city government will be out of City Hall. Chase has very graciously offered for us to use a suite of offices out at GMWSS on the far end of his complex. They had an area that's already upfitted and virtually ready for us to move into and use. We're talking about the rental factor. That will not be a deal breaker. We're just trying to make sure that it's an appropriate rental factor so that we're treating Chase's ratepayers fairly. But that will reduce the amount of expense that we have in that regard. Since they also have a very large training room out there, we think it'd be an ideal place for us to start holding council meetings in person. We're ready to get back together, but our chambers are still a bit cramped. The training room at GMWSS will be right out there by where our headquarters are. And we think it will set up really nicely for a council meeting. We can perhaps leave some of our stuff there. I'll break the surprise a little bit, Mr. Showalter. You all will find that in your absence from City Hall, we have purchased new council chairs for you. And look forward to you all actually getting to experience those. So that is our expectation, that we will begin to meet at the GMWSS training room in person. And glad that we're back to that point and have that solution. Thank you,
Will
Tammy.
that be our next meeting, or will you just let us know in an email?
We'll let you know in an email, but I anticipate it being at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
We still are welcome to use the library, but they have such a demand for that room that if we have an alternative, I like to be a good neighbor to the library and let other people use it as well. So, okay, thank you, Tammy. That was something I really meant to mention and had completely failed to. Chase, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I regret to inform everybody that my youngest daughter will not be joining us again at this meeting as she did last meeting unexpectedly. So, but I was pleased with her eagerness to be involved with local government at such a young age. So we have 5 items for your consideration tonight, and if it's okay with council, I'll just offer explanation of all 5 purchase orders, but stop me if you have questions. First, we have a purchase order for Hexagon Technologies. It's in the amount of $37,080. This is a purchase for 12,000 gallons of a chemical we use for phosphorus removal at Plant 2. This is purchased through our chemical bid contract, and it is a budgeted purchase, budgeted item. And second, we have another purchase order for Evoqua in the amount of $49,085. This is for 40,000 pounds of activated carbon, another item we use at wastewater plant 2. This is budgeted, and I believe this one is sole source. Jumping on down to item D on your agenda, we have purchase order for leak eliminators in the amount of $46,220.51. This is for rehab work on our 10-inch sewer that goes under I-75. This sewer is in poor condition, is a polite way to put it, and consequence of failure of this line would be catastrophic. So we've been replacing this sewer in sections with different methods. We've been using cure-in-place pipe where we cannot dig a trench, and in the places where it's more appropriate, we do open trench replacement. This is a budgeted item, and this work is being performed through our unit price contract that is bid that was awarded to leak eliminators. I'll stop there and ask if you have any questions on those 3.
Chase, quick question if I may.
Yes, sir.
On leak eliminators. With that work that they're proposing to do, will that help with any infiltration you think that's coming into the system? And does that impact wastewater treatment plant number 1, if so?
I am sure that it will help with some infiltration, just based on the condition of the pipe that we've seen. Is it going to be a measurable amount that we can utilize? Otherwise, I don't know if it's quantifiable.
Okay, that's fine. I've seen leak eliminator. Obviously, we've approved some other, I guess, projects or bids for leak eliminators. So I guess they're doing good work, but is that something that we track as well as, the infiltration? I know that's obviously a big deal when it rains for you all.
Well, first, leak eliminator, they were the low bidder on our unit price contract. They've done outstanding work for us thus far. Tracking infiltration and inflow reduction is something we obviously we do when we make repairs. We actually, just in addition to contract work that we put out to fix things in the system and fix specific I&I problems, we also do a number of aggressive work related to I&I reduction in-house with our collection staff. How to quantify those reductions is we do our best with that. There are methods for quantifying that. Again, is it something that we can truly take that quantity and say we can that we're going to be able to use that capacity for future development? I don't think so. I don't generally know of where regulatory agencies accept that. It is something we track. Again, I just don't know how truly accurate what we can quantify as far as a volume that we take out of our system.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I appreciate it. I didn't mean to slow us down, but I did. That was something else.
David, your question is on point, though.
Absolutely.
Your question is completely on point in that it's hard to quantify very specifically because it's almost kind of quantifying negative. How much did we reduce what is there when it's very hard to quantify it? But we absolutely are certain that we're making little dents in that every time we fix an I&I problem. And when we aggregate all those, and we've been doing it ever since that super wet year 3 or 4 years ago, when we aggregate all of our little gains, we're moving the needle. We know we're moving the needle, even though it's hard to quantify. Is that a fair statement, Chase?
I think that's fair, and I'd take it the one step further. I think we can utilize guidelines from US EPA or studies from different engineering universities where grad students are looking at that thing as a kind of a PhD thesis. But I think that the telling trend is if we can really attack an area over time, I think we can view the benefit there as reduced run times at pump stations throughout our collection and conveyance system. And again, those aren't things that we can measure directly right after a project is complete. It's something that we could look at over a number of months to see if it made a measurable difference. And I think again, the run times of pumps at our pump stations is the best thing that we can look at. So if we see right now, we know that a pump station is struggling to keep up with the flow. We do some work in an area and we can look over a period of say 12 to 24 months, we get a few really good wet seasons to look at that, and we see those pump run times come down. We'll know that we've done a really good project, and then we can know that maybe that pump station's in better shape than it was at a previous date.
Good information. I appreciate it. I like this kind of work, quite honestly, because I feel like we're getting some benefit from it. So maybe multiple benefits, quite honestly. The less the pumps run, the more money you save. The less electricity you use, the longer they last, and obviously the more potential customers that can tie into the system. So just multitude of benefits, I guess. So thanks, Chase and Mayor, for that.
Do you want to go ahead and take those three, Chase, separately?
However you prefer, Mayor.
Is that your motion? Thank you, Tammy.
Second.
Greg, thank you.
Greg.
Any third? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Those three carry, Chase.
The next,
I was split those up with you, Paul, so I went ahead and took them.
Thank you. The last two items are related to the wastewater treatment plant 1 upgrade and expansion. And I figured I'd offer just a quick update, a very quick and general update. Judy Construction has been back on site working on general site work, demolition of structures that we know were designed incorrectly and cannot be used. And they're continuing work on structures that have been approved either from the original design, we know those structures will work, or things that have been redesigned and that we know they can move forward on. So the contractor is back to work. They have been for, I believe, since late December, early January. But again, that's what they're able to work on right now. Georgetown Municipal and GRW, our design engineer, we continue to work through this redesign process where GRW will redesign a structure or a component of a structure that we had determined was deficient in its original design. Then we take that redesigned piece and WJE, our independent third-party structural engineer, they review that redesign. If it's acceptable, they approve it. And then we issue it to the contractor through a work directive, and it goes through the contractual change order process. So that process is slow. It's what we've been working through since really since late October, November. And it's not a fun process. It's not where we wanted to be. However, as I've kind of said in the updates, that this is the only strategy that gives us the confidence we need in order to move forward. And with that being said, at this time, I still do not have a revised project cost or a revised project schedule. And as I've said previously, I will present revised schedule, revised cost when I know something about revised schedule and cost. Speculation at this point, I just don't believe it's going to be helpful to the board, to the council, or to just anybody in the general public. So know that I will present that as soon as I know something. Moving forward, we've got a purchase order first for Judy Construction in the amount of $234,939.38. This is for work that was performed in January of 22. And if you recall back before September, Judy was doing about $1 million worth of work per month. So you can see how, just based on their invoices, the work reduction that we've experienced even since they've been back to work. So again, though, they are moving forward. This is what we've received and approved. That work has been completed for this amount during the billing period. So this part of the work, it was approved. It was part of the original contract. None of this work that they're working on is affected by the structural design issues. So then directly related, second, we have a purchase order for WJE in the amount of $96,577.60. And if you recall, we retained WJE there to help us with review of the original structural design that was determined to be defective. And they have helped us determine the extent of the what was affected on which structures. And then they've helped us, as I said, with helping us review and give me the green light, give me the confidence on everything that's being redesigned by GRW. We cannot just accept a GRW redesign right now without third-party verification, is what I'll call it. So this purchase order is for their continued services. If you recall, you've already approved one purchase order for $160,000. That money has been utilized. We're moving forward. Without this third-party review, as I said, I'm not confident we can move forward without it on GRW's redesign, and we need their review for the corrective actions. We do intend to recover these costs at a later date when we know what these totals are. So that's the update I have. So I'd ask or entertain any questions on the wastewater plant one, either of these purchase orders.
Chase, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is taking the longest in this process right now? What is the reason why we can't seem to get a time frame?
Willow, there are, if I could step in, there are a lot of issues concerning the redesign and what is a reasonable redesign. Chase has to have confidence in the redesign which we think requires the input of his third-party consulting forensic engineering firm. Where there may be disagreements between the two design firms, that slows down the process. What Chase is having to do, I'm choosing my words carefully on purpose, Willow. What Chase has to do is make sure that we get a proper sanitary sewer facility, that we have not paid an excessive amount to construct. And in all of those interests, he's only bringing us what has passed through the correct filters. And that's why so little is coming to you right now.
Okay.
Is that a fair?
A lot of negotiation, a lot of back and forth, a lot of review.
Very tedious, very, very tedious. Chase, is that where the time's going?
All of the above, correct. Mayor, thank you for putting that better than I would have, but we're juggling all those filters. That was a good way to put it. GRW has to produce the redesign, has to be approved by WJE. So some of the things have been approved, some of them have not. If it's not, it goes back to GRW to redesign, and you're forced to somewhat referee between two design professionals, two firms on what is needed. And that's just an ongoing process. It's not a perfect science, and it's just taking time.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Good. Chase, are we ready to call for an approval of those two purchase orders?
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion for approval of those two purchase orders in particular?
Mayor, I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Greg. Willow, was that a second?
Sure.
Thank you. If there are more questions for Chase, we'll take the time we need. But if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are any opposed? Thank you all. Chase, we're going to get through this, and we're going to have an outstanding sewer plant that supports our community.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. And yes, we are. I agree.
All right. Anything else for us tonight, Chase?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you. Next on our agenda, let's see. We can pass on item 8. We had a municipal order to renew one of our demolition contracts, the one with Blaze Enterprises. We've had that contract for several years, and we were seeking just to re-up it at the same rate. And they decided that since they hadn't changed the rate in some time, that they'd probably like for us to rebid it. And so we're going to go through a rebid process, and we will bring you fresh bids since they declined to renew their contract. The only way it affects us is we would have brought that house down quicker, but we'll bring you back a bid and have that for you at the next meeting. So if we move to item 9 on our agenda, this one got a lot of comments from council members and made a lot of council members kind of excited. I hope it meets the standard. Under city engineer, a municipal order related to streetlights on state roads. And I think it's a pretty good number of them, isn't it, Tracy? Do we have Eddie on with us tonight, Andrew?
Yeah, I'll take this one, Mayor. Thank you.
Oh, there you are. Thank you, Eddie.
Sorry, been in the background, not saying much. Yeah, this is an old project that I inherited, but there's a bunch of intersections along 460, starting at Rural King and going towards Paris, the subdivisions in there, and then also out on 32 and Long Lake Road. And they're going to get, we're going to put streetlights in at each one of those intersections. And I need approval not for the construction cost, but just for the monthly lighting bill. These lights were put in on state roads, and but they're within the city, and so we had to go to the state to get approval of all the locations of each and every intersection, and we worked within a budget, and so we're asking for approval to pay for those lights on a monthly basis. It's about $555 a month to pay for the lights, and hopefully the council will approve this tonight.
I'll make a motion for it because I've always lived out 460 area, and it is black as pitch out here at night when you come out. And when it's raining, it is so hard to see the turn into several of the subdivisions out here. So it's a safety issue as well as just beneficial in other ways.
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Eddie, what you don't know is that some of these council members have been pleading for streetlights on these state roads since before you arrived at the city. So,
yeah.
Oh
yeah, it started way before I got here, and I'm sorry it took so long to get the lights put in. I apologize for the delay.
Eddie, a follow-up question for you. Will these streetlights have an appropriate look? Are they going to be nice streetlights? Or are they going to be posts?
They're going to be like wood poles and a Cobra headlight, which is the standard, the lighting that they KU puts in for free, basically.
Okay, can we, let's talk about what an upgrade will cost.
We can do that. We can, I did not get a price for upgrades. We just did the standard, all the other poles out there are wood poles, and we kind of matched those. But we can certainly upgrade for sure.
Well, why don't you and I take a ride out there and look?
Okay.
And council members do the same, and we'll get a price on upgrading these posts. There's been some roads where a wood post right next to the highway was just not something we wanted to do.
Okay, yeah.
If we're gonna do this,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's a real opportunity to at least cost out what something that looks nicer at these key intersections.
Oh, without question,
Mayor,
this is the time to change it. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the intersections though, just from personal experience with this, being out here all my life, some of them would work with some more specialized, prettier pose and prettier lights on the entrances, but some of them won't work for that. Like the intersection around 460 and all that, it pretty much is commercial like it is. And it's more important to have the safety of having as much light as possible versus having the prettier pose and maybe the light not be as effective. Like the intersection where it comes out to where I'm at, which is Rocky Creek Reserve, the last intersection, it's right across from Crumball. It is so dark out here, and there's a pole already right there beside the intersection. Putting a light up there would just be perfect and shine a light down. If you put a fancier street light on there, I don't think it'd be as effective. It wouldn't take in the Reserve and Crumball, which Crumball needs the light as much as we do going in here. But then you go back to Rocky Creek Farm, there's some light there already a little bit. So a decorative pole there would probably be very, very attractive, very nice, and give the extra light that is needed. So yeah, I recommend for all the council to drive out here and take a look, and for you and Eddie to come out here and take a look, because I think some places you want as much light effective for the safety versus the beauty of it. So that's just my thoughts.
Sounds good. Yes, sir.
I could real fast. David, I know one of your passions has always been the landscaping, and I totally agree with you. One of my passions has been the street lighting, and it sounds like Karen has the same passion. So yeah, it's going to improve visibility, which ultimately is going to improve safety. And it's a minimal cost, to be quite honest. So I think if we're going to do this, I think we got to, as Mayor, as you stated, I think we got to do it the right way. And I think the appearance is important. And, the better it looks, I think it just helps Georgetown. And I would prefer not to put it on wooden poles, or if at all possible, if we can just make it, look as nice as possible.
We'll figure out what that looks like engineering wise and cost wise, and you all drive out and put your eyes on it, and we'll talk about this again. I knew you all would be really excited about finally at the point of making a decision to put in the lights.
No, Mayor, you're right. I'm excited about it. I'm all for it. I appreciate your efforts on making this happen. I know you and your staff are the ones that are getting it done. And to ease Karen's concerns, I mean, they're definitely commercial grade fixtures that, if you drive out on Lexus Way, for example, they don't have, the wooden poles, and it's very well lit. So anyway, I know there'll be some options. It'll just be a decision we have to make. So thanks.
Sir. Okay, Eddie. So we do not, Devin, we do not need approval of that tonight, or do we? I'm trying to see how you've got it on the agenda.
It's just for the tariff, so I don't know. It would be approval.
The tariff is not going to change.
Right.
If we upgrade the poles and the light fixtures, that would be a change.
Okay, so you can go ahead and approve the tariffs tonight.
Yeah.
Fine. I'd like,
Motion.
council probably wants to move.
And we'll
it
bring you
on.
a second, if we have some other options after we drive out there, then we'll bring you a second approval.
Fine. Who made that motion?
We already
I did.
had a motion for a second.
Oh, you've got a
Karen.
motion in a second.
Karen and Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah, I made the motion and talked over top of it as usual.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. That carries. That's a good outcome, Eddie. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, sir. Let's see, Stacy, under finance, we have first reading of a budget amendment ordinance.
Yes, I am going to share my screen so that we can go through the items in the budget amendment. We'll start with the general fund. And of course, you had this in the packet, but everything is broken down between previously approved transactions and new requests. The first two, the additional winter de-icing salt, we have not yet placed any orders for that, but that was the additional salt that Bruin had you approve just in case. Obviously, if we don't need those funds, we won't use it. And then the VAWA grant, we had some general fund expenses to pick up there that council had approved in the resolution accepting the grant. Under new request, I have additional garbage franchise fee revenue, since we will be getting 10% franchise fees from Republic on the new collections for the rest of the year. So I just did an estimate on that based on what we've collected from GMWSS in the past for the last 4 months of the year. Mayor, I don't know if you want to talk about the fire truck.
I'll be glad to mention it, Stacey. I hope I've gotten a chance to talk with most of the council members over the last year about the opportunity for the city to reacquire Old Faithful, the city's old fire truck that Lewis Wolf has owned for a number of years. Lewis recently went through a series of repairs and presented invoices in the amount of just over $50,000 and was willing to let the city take the truck back over for that stack of invoices. Our fire department, I'm not sure I've seen a group of young men and women more excited about the opportunity to own an old symbol of their history. The big question that everyone has asked me when we brought it up, where are you going to store it? Chief, where are you going to store it? So everyone has the same question. And Chief Colson assures me that he has space, existing space within his facilities to store this antique truck inside. We've had possession of it for maybe 6 months. We told Mr. Wolf that I said, Lewis, we'll probably have to pay you over 2 budget years, and I can't start paying you till next budget year, or this amended budget year. So we've gone ahead and written in the entire $50,000. Lewis would tolerate half this year and half next year, but Stacy went ahead, and this represents Old Faithful that our fire department thinks would be a wonderful symbol for the city fire department.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is some funds for real property acquisition that you all have been discussing in executive session. So if that happens, the funding will be in the budget. Building inspection just needed a little bit extra in their computer budget. One of their renewals went up, and then they needed a new computer. Police has asked for additional building maintenance. They've had a lot of things break over the last year and needed some additional work. They have asked for, as we all know, gas prices have increased, so they've asked for a large increase in their motor fuel budget. Of course, for them, that's one of their largest expense line items, and a little bit of an increase in their K-9 expenses for some additional medical work that they've had to do that was unplanned. Public Works, what we've done here, we will adjust the sanitation budget in the final amendment of the year when we bring that back in June. We want to leave that budget open for now to let some of those bills trickle in. You know, sometimes bills come in a month or two later, but we don't expect a lot of activity in the sanitation budget. But this will account for some of those operational line items for Public Works. A big chunk of this, 30,000, is actually for salt. When we approved the initial salt municipal order last summer, we approved, it was a maximum of $115,000. We typically don't even budget that much in that account. We only budget $100,000 in that account. And it's also for things like pothole repairs, asphalt, concrete materials, and some other expendable supplies. So obviously we've had a rough winter. We have ordered every bit that we had initially allocated on that first MO. So about 30,000 of this 97 is to cover that. The rest is for vehicle maintenance, motor fuels, vehicle leases, items that have utilities, items that have typically been shared between Public Works and sanitation that will now become part of the Public Works budget. So for example, all the pickup trucks that currently are under the sanitation umbrella will become Public Works pickup trucks. We will be surplusing the garbage trucks, the large equipment, but the pickup trucks with the snow plows and salt boxes, we obviously want to keep. So this is just to make sure that Robert's operational line items will be okay through the end of the year. And we'll do a cleanup amendment in June to tidy up some other things once we see how they all shake out and what's left in the sanitation fund. Of course, the sanitation fund also has to cover recycling through the end of the year. So we'll clean all that up at the end of the year. 3,500 in the city engineer budget. We had approved a project at Scroggins Park for some street light repairs. They had a couple of additional repairs that were unplanned. So a little bit in there for that. Utility street lights, that's for the tariff on the new state road street lights that we just discussed. The transfer to capital projects fund, this is related to the TAP grant. So we'll talk about that more in the TAP grant and capital projects funds. And this is a reduction of 100,000 after going back and looking at the resolution for the sidewalk repair cost sharing program. We had indicated that it would be funded out of Arpa. And when we did the first budget amendment, we had put it in the general fund. So that's just moving it to the Arpa fund. For the 911 fund, the only thing we had was the server that was an unplanned purchase for them. Council previously approved that, and of course showing the county paying their half of the expense. The grant fund, this is the federal portion of the TAP grant revenue, the additional funds that we're getting to finish out that project, and the VAWA grant that was accepted. For the ARPA fund, after discussion with Andrew, we did not specify on the municipal order for the City Hall architects, but with the new guidelines with ARPA funds and being able to use that for capital and operational, basically being able to treat it as all as revenue replacement, or using it for general operations. We're using that for the City Hall renovation for the architectural contract. And then, as I mentioned, moving the sidewalk repair program there. And lastly, on the capital projects fund, with the additional TAP grant funding came an additional 20% match. So this is showing the general fund committee that additional 20% match for the TAP fund, for the TAP grant. So that is everything on the budget amendment. If anyone has any questions, let me know.
Stacy, the increased match on the TAP grant is, gosh, I was spending 20-cent dollars or 10-cent dollars. It's a match we're happy to make.
Yes, yeah.
To get that additional funding. Also, I think it's important I was going to mention it during my mayor comments, but I didn't have good notes tonight. But it's an appropriate time to mention that Andrew replied to Willow this afternoon with a specific request for the balances on ARPA money. And I'm glad that that was requested and we all could see what those current balances are from what's been committed at this point and spent even in this amended budget, and what our balances are as of this date. Just an important footnote, I think, Stacy.
Yes, it is. And our balances may differ slightly because I had done this last week, and I think there was one item that we had previously thought we were going to fund out of ARPA that we are no longer aren't doing at this time. So my numbers may look slightly different from his, I think, but it's just due to that one expense. So I'm going to stop my share and let Tracy do first reading if no one has questions.
Go right ahead, Tracy. Thank you.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022. Summary, general fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $284,494. Franchise fee revenue is increased by $72,000. Intergovernmental revenue is increased by $1,425. General government expenses are increased by $2,240. Building inspection expenses are increased by $2,850. Police expenses are increased by $127,215. Public work expenses are increased by $126,513. Engineering expenses are decreased by $96,500. Capital expenses are increased by $86,000. Transfer to other funds are increased by $109,601. 911 fund. Intergovernmental revenue is increased by $9,547.50. Dispatch expenses are increased by $19,095. Grant fund. Federal grant revenue is increased by $492,566. Police expenses are increased by $54,162. Community service expenses are decreased by $438,404. ARPA fund. Community service expenses are increased by $100,000. Capital expenses are increased by $637,985. Capital project fund. Capital expenses are increased by $109,601. Transfers from other funds are increased by $109,601. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time, February 28th, 2022.
Thank you, Tracy. That will constitute first reading, and we'd be glad to answer any questions between now and next meeting when we anticipate actual vote on that. Also, under finance, Stacy has a quarterly financial update for us.
Yes. Okay, as always, we will start with a review of 5 of our most significant revenue accounts. Payroll tax collections, our largest account. As you can see, we budgeted $13,600,000 in the 22 budget, and we have collected 53% of that budget year to date. And you can see here we are ahead of this time last year by 186,000. The mayor ranger may be able to answer this. I tried to get a hold of Scott today to confirm, but I know in September our Toyota payment was delayed. I don't know if they're still behind with reporting payroll or not.
What we do know is they changed payroll vendors, and we know one report shifted that changed that report significantly. I don't have an update.
Okay. I tried to call Scott, but he wasn't available at the moment. So I'll try to have an update next time. But either way, even if Toyota is behind a month, we're 186,000 ahead of where we were this time last year. So that's good. And moving on to net profits. We have collected 2 million. Technically, we've collected 662,000. The 1.3 million that I've highlighted, as always, those are the carry forward credits from net profit tax returns. We show those as negatives or reductions of revenue in June of every year. We always hope that this year will be the year we get to recognize that revenue, but we will see. We just kind of keep kicking it to the next year. So we only budgeted $1 million. And so, like I said, we have collected, other than this carry forward credit, we've collected 662,000. So, and that's obviously April is when the majority of our returns will come in. So we hopefully should not have any trouble meeting our budget this year. And we're 255,000 ahead of where we were at this time last year. Although part of that's due to the fact that the credit balance is larger as well. So always a little anomaly there with net profits. Insurance premium taxes. As you all know, our rate increased to 8% effective July 1st. We budgeted $5,760,000. For the first 2 quarters, we have collected $2,967,094, which is 52% of our budget. So we're right on track with our budget for insurance premium. And as expected, we are 1.1 million ahead of this time last year since the rate is different. Property taxes, we have collected $2,013,000 out of our $2,050,000 budget, which is a 98% collection. Of course, we still have a few months to go, and there will be some bills that trickle in the spring. So hopefully we will get up to that budget. We typically do exceed our budget for property taxes. So we have a little bit of time on that.
Stacy, just for the benefit of our newer council members, on property tax collection, several years ago, we had a citizen assert that we were not collecting all of the property taxes. And we went through an analysis that looked at our property tax collections over 5 years. Because our system was really implemented to work over a 5-year period, because we end up picking up a lot of unpaid property taxes, penalty and interest when sale transactions happen. And our analysis showed that after 5 years, our city clerk actually collects like 102% of the total taxes, property taxes that are billed. So I just wanted to point out they do an outstanding job, and the way our system is set up after a 5-year period, we really do a good job on property tax collection.
Yes, we do. And lastly, the alcoholic beverage regulatory fees. For the first 2 quarters, we have received $737,249 out of a $1.2 million budget, which is 61%, and we are about 31,000 872 ahead of where we were at this time last year. So that is all I have. And Tracy will be emailing a copy of this report as well as the more detailed line item revenue and expense report to you at the conclusion of the meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Stacy. Any questions for Stacy about her report or anything else in her shop?
I've got a question, Mayor. I mean, in hearing, reading information that's printed information and then listening to the news, and I know there's still quite a few companies and businesses throughout this entire country that are having supply chain issues. And I don't know if that's going to go away anytime soon. So my question is, for the remainder of this budget year, are we anticipating the payroll tax to kind of come in as projected, or are we aware of any potential, I hate to use the word disruptions, but any slowdown at all?
Mark, we are unaware of any potential change, and at this point, our projections are unchanged. I hope that is a rational way to approach that, and we're not whistling past the graveyard. But at the time of this budget revision, I think the steps that the council has previously taken to improve our revenue situation have really paid off well, and your work is showing right now. And I think we're I'm stumbling around, but we can always have a catastrophe. We've seen that across the globe, but I don't anticipate one, Mark.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for Stacy? Okay, next on our agenda is under Public Works, a municipal order approving surplus items. Devin, I'm not sure what we're surplusing here.
Yeah, so there's quite a list, if you'll see in your packet, of items, and a lot of this is related to the privatization of solid waste collection. So Robert kind of did an inventory of his equipment, and he put together a pretty comprehensive list of things that we can be auctioning off because they're no longer in use.
Okay, and it sounds like then that could have some real value to it.
In total, I would say it could, and there's some larger items on this list. Actual garbage trucks. We're obviously going to keep. I don't remember the exact types, but we're keeping a handful of trucks. But there's some high dollar items on the list for sure.
Okay, Todd, are you and Greg comfortable with the list being surplused?
Yeah, definitely. I talked to Robert this morning, and he on the garbage trucks, he indicated he's already has several inquiries on those. So those will probably go pretty quick.
Good. Good. Well, then, if there are no questions, is there a motion for approval? Thank Greg.
Second.
Thanks, Todd. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. That carries. Devin, am I reading the agenda right? Are we down to council comments?
You made it.
We made it. Okay. Just before we start council comments, for those of you that have been out West Main Street over the last couple of weeks, you've seen a lot of work going on the viaduct and our West Main Street program. Folks, it's going to be gorgeous. It is really going to be something we're proud of. They've taken out the old deck there at the corner of Royal Spring Park and West Main Street. And we've been working on the redesign of that deck. And in fact, I think we're meeting, I think it's Wednesday morning this week at 9 o'clock to, if anybody's free and wants to look at any of those plans. It's just really pleased with the way that project is taking shape and the way it's going to look. And with that, I will stop and let's see, Willow, may we start with you tonight?
Sure. I want to thank Andrew for getting the ARPA breakdown. I think that's really helpful. I realize now that there aren't as many restrictions or any restrictions really on the money. It's ultimately general fund money. And I think we've made some good decisions so far, and I hope we can have some input going forward. There are just a lot of needs and a lot of people who have given input. So I hope we can know about that and prioritize some things going forward. I was wondering, is Eric still on?
Looks like it.
Yes.
Eric, do we have an update on the fire truck fleet repairs?
No, ma'am. We currently still have the engine in Virginia getting repaired from the collision it was involved in. The
Okay.
aerial truck is still waiting on the electrical components to come in, and that's in northern Kentucky. But we are running what is our current fleet, which one is still damaged from an incident, and we do have the loaner. So we actually are in a position to, if something happens, we do have a spare.
Well, that's good. I was just thinking that maybe some of these things Mark was talking about were affecting our ability to get parts for the fire truck repairs that have been taking a long time to get done. So I appreciate all your work on that. I know it's been a lot to deal with. And I think that the City Hall is going to be an exciting process. Mayor, do we have an idea of the phases and when we might initiate some of the approval of the architect design and then moving forward? Or
they gave in their proposal, Willow, they gave us a general timeline.
Right.
That led to us vacating City Hall by the end of September. But we discussed that the next big step for the council would be information about a construction manager and that selection process, so they could partner with the architects in making the actual recommendations. Andrew, do you know where we are with that process?
We're drafting our RFP now. I hope that will go out. I'd like that to go out in the next couple of weeks. They've given us what we need. We just we got to pull it together.
One more point to that. Our last correspondence with Elizabeth and Karen is that they are preparing a more formal schedule to send over to us to review. I know they included the generic one that Mayor referenced, but they're going to get more specific with milestone dates, and they're going to send that to us. And then they are also going to send us a standard owner architect agreement for review and comment, so we can enter into that. We approved their proposal, but we didn't enter into a contract with them yet. So that's another step. But like Andrew noted, they sent us some templates for that construction manager at risk model, and we're going to continue to mold that and hopefully get that out in the coming weeks.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Mayor. That's all.
Yes, ma'am. And Willow, you reminded me of this morning. I was fortunate enough to attend a press conference over at the courthouse where Judge Covington announced a $3 million grant that Scott County has received to help with their broadband project.
Oh, fantastic.
If you'll recall, they put out an RFP. Spectrum was the successful responder, and Spectrum was putting in like 11 or 12 million. Scott County had to put in 3 million. And Scott County found a grant, a federal communications grant, for the entire $3 million. The point was that the judge and I emphasized today is that preserved their ARPA money for other uses. He was originally going to spend ARPA money on that if necessary. But it was a great example, and I applaud the judge for seeking that funding and preserving that ARPA funding as well.
Yeah, that's great news. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mark?
Mayor, this is just my own personal opinion. Others might agree, some might disagree.
Yes, sir.
You know, the house on South Broadway there, you know, Clayton Avenue, you know, obviously we got some bad news, but it was still the right decision. That's my personal opinion. You know, that's a major corridor coming into downtown Georgetown. And I know several council members and I have talked about this over the last several months, and it was still the right decision. And we can make that look really nice. And I hope we do. So that's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Karen?
I'm excited about the lights on 460. I don't care what kind of light pose you get it on, just get lights and that will be wonderful. So I'm excited about that. And then I had a constituent call. Most of the council can remember this problem, the drainage that's over there behind Anderson's development with the apartments and all, the high berm that's been created. We had the heavy rains over the week and their backyard was completely flooded again, and ran that water down through there, because the last time that happened, Anderson said that they would take some action to try to alleviate that flow so it wasn't so heavy. But whatever they've done is undone now with the amount of rain, and the water has pushed the dirt away. So if you could maybe send Eddie over there to take a look at it or see what they've done or what they need to do. But they sent me pictures again. The backyard was flooded like they had, I guess maybe we talked about this last year. It was flooded again. So we need to put some.
We can take all. This is the first I've heard of this, so thank you for letting me know.
Sure.
Appreciate that. I'll look into it tomorrow.
Okay.
And then find out what happened, and then get back with.
Okay, I'll send you. They sent me some pictures, of course, and I'll send you one of the pictures. And if you need the address again of where their yard backs up, I'll get their address for you and send it to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's it. That's all I've got.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Greg?
Mayor, I have nothing this week. I just glad to see we're going to be coming back in person the next council meeting, and I look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Connie?
Well, it's good to see everybody, and I'm glad we're going to be getting back together in person as well. I'm excited about summer and spring. It's warm today. The sun was out, and planning the 4th of July and the Horse Heat 100. I'm excited about that. And I was looking at what, thanks for sending this out on the ARPA funds, but it doesn't take long to spend part of $9 million, does it? We only have $5,600,000 left. So I'm glad that there's not a lot of attachment to it, that we can put it in the general fund and, like Willow says, be able to use it for some really interesting things. And I'm excited about the lights too, because Nicholas and I were the one that rode around for like 3 hours and put a list together that Eddie's probably working off of. But other than that, it's good to see everybody and can't wait to see everybody in person.
Thanks, Connie. Tammy?
Just a quick update. We did have a police committee meeting last Wednesday, and just to fill you in, they have 3 vacancies currently, and they have some good candidates for them. And Chief Bossy reported that morale is good and things are going well. So just wanted to update you on that. And otherwise, all is good.
Thank you, Tammy. Todd?
Thank you, sir. Just a couple things. Robert his crews are out actively looking for potholes. So if anybody sees one, please contact him, or that way they can get those taken care of. Also, if you have any streets that you need to look at potentially getting on the list to be paved, there is a long list currently, but if you see one, get in touch with Eddie or Robert and let them know, and then they can take a look at those. Kim Rice from Parks and Rec sent me a couple, three things. One is they have a new unsupervised youth policy at the Pavilion. The old standard used to be 10 years old and older. You could go out there and participate. Now, children 13 and older can participate without an adult, but those 10 under 13 must have adult supervision at all times. So they've made some great changes that will help, hopefully, with a lot of damage and vandalism and theft that they've had over the years out there. They are looking for those that are interested, coaches for football, baseball, soccer, and softball. Those groups have expressed the need for people to become involved. It is about that time they're looking for lifeguards, 15 years and older, and will receive training for those positions. So for those who are needing summer jobs. Also, the maintenance department with Parks and Rec, they raised their salaries up. So they're really looking forward to hopefully getting some help this year for their outdoor maintenance, because they sorely need help if possible. They've got a lot of grounds to mow and a lot of things that they need upkeep on. So other than that, that's all I've got. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Todd. David.
Thanks, Mayor. Good meeting. A lot of good information tonight, and I think a lot of good outcomes as well. Certainly excited about the streetlights, as everyone else is. And as it relates to House on Broadway, I'm glad to have some direction. I know early on I was obviously very excited about the possibility of turning it into just a true showplace there on Broadway. But option B was always to bring it down and kind of create a park area and use it for some stormwater underground detention, hopefully. So anyway, all positive there. And then we can take that money and apply it towards City Hall. So anyway, that's certainly a good direction. And then obviously with the county obtaining a $3 million grant, I mean, that's good for all of us. So it helps the community as a whole. And that's really it, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. The gentleman, Jason Keller from Spectrum today told me that within this coming year, within this coming 12 months, that they would begin upgrades in some parts of Georgetown. I know this is focused on the county and fiber to a lot of homes in the county, but we have so many underserved homes in the city, and this will be a benefit to the city as well. So Judge did a good job there, and the court backed him, and we'll all benefit from it. Okay, well, I think that completes our agenda, and if there's nothing else to come before the meeting tonight, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Good night.
Take good care.